This Thursday sees the start of the third iteration of Comic-Con Africa, and with that the finals of the Telkom VS Gaming Masters Season 5. There are just 4 teams left remaining who have started their journey 7 months ago. They had to fight through 3 legs of the league to reach the main event, where they then fought through the 18-team group stage to progress to the championship elimination bracket, where 16 teams were reduced to the 4 that are now remaining that will be taking part in the third and final stage, which is the Comic-Con online stage of the Masters Finals. And it is all to play for. The top 4 teams are going to be splitting 180,000 Rand amongst the 3 of them, and it's such a crazy long journey that's finally going to be culminating with 4 days worth of matches. And it's going to be super tight games as well. 4 of South Africa's best teams left in the mix. The first game we're going to be seeing is on the 24th of September. That'll be DNMK versus Sinister5. Then on the 25th of September, we're going to have ATK versus Goliath in the upper bracket final. And then on Saturday thereafter, we will have the lower bracket final. And then on Sunday, we will have the best of 5 grand final, which will have the winners walking away with 100,000 Rand. So all to play for coming up in the next couple of days. And like I said, it's going to be super entertaining games. I'm going to be doing a bit of a preview now where I just talk about each of the matches and sort of what we can expect from these teams going head to head in these games. So like I said, the first match that's going to be happening is DNMK versus Sinister5, and that's going to be on Thursday at 1:30, the 24th of September. Now, even though these 2 teams have made roster changes fairly recently, I think it's probably about 3 months ago now that they made a few changes. There's actually quite a lot of history between these 2 teams, and I think that that's mostly predicated off the fact that they kind of exchanged a couple of players with the roster changes. Lately swapped from DNMK and he joined Sinister5. Dweezil switched from Sinister5 and he joined DNMK, and of course Divo's formed part of the DNMK team as well, and he played a large part in Sinister5's roster throughout 2019, so he's also going up against his former org. So all of a sudden, all these storylines players going up against their former orgs and some former teammates as well always elevates the situation and adds a bit of extra spice to the occasion, because you always want to prove that you were the one who made the right decision if you left the team, or that your team made the wrong decision if they had removed you. So that's definitely something to look out for when you see these 2 teams going head to head. And they've actually played against each other a couple of times in the past few months, and they've always had closely contested games. Personally, I consider this as one of the most 50-50 matchups in South African Counter-Strike at the moment. Their games are always very closely contested. They have similar strengths in the map pool as well, which means they're always comfortable when they find it with whatever map they end up playing against each other, for the most part at least. So like I said, always makes for a great game of CS between these 2 teams, and with their tournament lives on the line here at the Telkom VS Gaming Masters, it's just they can't make any mistakes, and it is going to provide for a great game to open things up. So that's going to be on Thursday, like I said. Now let's talk a little bit about this game. Okay, so Sinister5 played against DNMK last weekend in the ROG Soldiers of Fortune, where Sinister5 actually eliminated them from the event in a hard-fought 2-1. The first map, Inferno, was won by DNMK 16-11, then Sinister5 won Nuke 16-11, and then, or rather, Nuke was the third map, excuse me. I believe it was Train, actually, that was the second map in the series, and I believe it was Train. Anyway, I'm 99% sure it was. And Sinister5 won that map 16-11. And then they went across to Nuke, where Sinister5 just had a fantastic performance. And they won that 16-4. It was super clinical. But again, it was a tight series. And so recently Sinister5 did get the 1-up on DNMK, so that's going to be in the back of the minds going into this series. However, you can't read too much into that, because in the previous occasions they played against each other, DNMK got the better of them, so it's back and forth the whole time between these 2 teams. DNMK's success is predicated a bit more off of their individual prowess. They've got a team where all 5 of their players have the capability of popping off. In particular, the Man and Divo are the players who do most of the damage for that team, and when they have a lights out series, they can just run over the server against nearly any team in South Africa. These are super skilled individuals, and we've also seen a bit of a resurgence of Divo, if I can put it that way. I feel like he's been looking really good over the past few weeks in DNMK's team, and I think that his strengths are suited to the play style of this roster as well. He likes to be a bit more of a loose, cerebral player who can, you know, make decisions based off the immediate information, not being like a super structured team where everything has to follow a format and then you're really confined into the decisions that you can make. And when you think about the players in this team, it makes perfect sense that that's the way they're going to approach the game. When you have the likes of the man, even Heartbreak with the AWP is one of those really sporadic players who can just get aggressive and open things up. So that's sort of the play style that Dynamic bring to the table, right? And on the contrary, Sinister5 have a play style where they like to play a lot more as a team. Their success is around their communication and their teamwork amongst one another. They're very good at making their mid-round decision making with Elusive as the IGL. So that's where Sinister5's success comes in, is where they are working really well together. Then you have the likes of Lately and Slayer, the two young guns who are the heavy hitters in the team, who are supposed to be bringing most of the firepower. But Elusive has also just been fragging like a madman lately. And then of course Deviant, he's always just there, a solid pillar and zero chance, making sure that the rosters round out nicely and that there's a good balance there as well with the youth and experience. So this Sinister5 team has got really solid teamwork. I think they're a bit more of a finished product right now than what this DNMK roster is. DNMK have been changing their roles around quite a lot lately, shifting the IGL from the man into Dweezil, then to Nexus, taking over the reins. So they've been changing things quite a lot lately. So they're now finally maybe settling into the roles in the team, and they can start to find some consistency. But they're definitely a work in progress, is the way that I would put it. And I think they need quite a bit more time before we're going to start to see the results that we know they're capable of. They've definitely got a high skill ceiling potential, but they haven't really reached that potential that we know they're capable of. And like I said, that's because they've been transitioning their roles and they need some time to reach that level, right? So I think this Dynamic team is still a work in progress, and I think they are still going to be needing time before they're really reaching their peak. Whereas I think right now, as it stands, Sinister5 are a bit more of a finished product. Whenever you have Elusive in a team, he's just going to be bringing a huge amount of composure and just so much experience as well. So I think that Sinister5 might have the edge in this game over DNMK right now as it stands. The one thing I will say is that Slayer, he's one of those players who's like taking over the server, or he goes slightly anonymous, because when he finds his groove, if he finds his groove, that's when he can just start to become like super aggressive and just frag like a madman. But if he doesn't get in that groove, it's almost just like stuttering, trying to find that sweet spot. So if Slayer becomes that beast that we know he can be consistently, then I think that I definitely think Sinister5 have the edge here. But if we see DNMK with all 5 players firing on all cylinders, they're also definitely a force to be reckoned with. So it's going to be a very closely contested game. And of course, DNMK, they've got Dweezil, right? The 2 times back-to-back Comic-Con winner. So he just always, he gives them that like extra 10% in edge because he's in the team. He's won both of the past Comic-Cons with energy. Now in DNMK, going to be looking to prove it once again that he is the prize piece, right? The common denominator, as it would be. So that's pretty much how that game sets up. Like I said, personally, I think I give Sin5 a slight edge in the matchup. We'll have to see how that one plays out. Very similar map pool, very similar strengths. In particular, Nuke and Inferno, both of the teams love to play those maps. Not afraid of Train, not afraid of Dust. Certainly going to make for an entertaining spectacle. If I was DNMK, I'm looking to try and play Mirage against Sinister5. We don't really see Sinister5 play that much Mirage. I think they permaban Vertigo as well, which is a map DNMK have been looking to pick up quite a lot recently, so obviously that won't be an option. But I would be looking to go for Mirage. When you see the individuals on DNMK, they've definitely got what it takes to be very good on that map. And like I said, Sin5 don't play too much Mirage, so maybe that could be a good opportunity for DNMK. I think they should be avoiding Overpass. Personally, I think that Sinister5 are one of the best teams in South Africa, so I would immediately veto that off the bat, and I think that might give DNMK a bit of an edge in the veto then if they take that route. So we'll have to see how it plays out. Moving on to the next match, it's the upper bracket final between South Africa's two best teams, ATK Arena and Goliath Gaming. They played in the final just this past weekend of the ROG Soldiers of Fortune, and the second map, Vertigo, was actually very hotly contested, and I think that that map right there will be restoring the faith in the Goliath camp and the confidence that they have what it takes to go toe-to-toe with ATK. But let's not forget that ATK have beaten Goliath in their past 12 matches that they've played against one another. This goes back to the 14th of April where ATK started the spree. So it has been a run of misery from Goliath's perspective, and they're going to be so desperate to turn it around. When you look at the names in this Goliath team, they're stacked with winners, people who are used to winning, the likes of Kani, who's been around from the South African scene for a number of years, always right at the top. ADM won Comic-Con with Energy last year. Of course, Massacre and Adaro and Zip Zip, the core three who have been playing with Goliath for a number of years now. They've been winning a bunch of events as well. So all of these guys, they want to certainly get back to that level, and you can bet your top dollar they'll be doing everything they can to reach that point. And like I said, I think that performance on Vertigo will reignite the fire in them, and we might be seeing them just with a bit of extra confidence coming back into this match against ATK. The thing is, right, is that it's not really the greatest turnaround time between that game on Sunday and their match they're going to be playing against each other on Friday, which means that they're not going to have too much time to make any wholesale changes to try and see if they can get the solution going. So they can only tinker with one or two things and hope that it makes a difference. Of course, Goliath do have their new analyst to work with, who is Bunter. He's from Europe, and he's certainly going to be helping them, studying the opposition and giving them tips and pointers as to where they can improve their game and potentially catch ATK off. So I definitely think that's an extra addition which will help Goliath's cause going against ATK. But yeah, ATK decided to, or rather Goliath decided to pick Dust 2 against ATK in their grand final last weekend, and it didn't work out too well. But I actually like that decision to pick Dust 2 because we haven't seen them playing that map too much against each other. It's mostly been the likes of Nuke, Overpass, Vertigo recently as well coming to fruition, but and Mirage, of course. But Dust isn't a map we've seen them play against each other too much recently, so I like that Goliath tried that out. Yeah, like I said, it didn't go perfectly, but maybe if they change one or two things, it can actually have a larger effect on the end result. There were some very close rounds that didn't end up going Goliath's way, so maybe the scoreline wasn't fully indicative of how close the game was. So I'm interested to see what sort of map pool Goliath are going to be approaching the game with. On the flip side, when we look at ATK, they have just been absolutely dominant over the past couple of months. If you've been living under some sort of a rock and you're not actually familiar, then yeah, this ATK team has just been the best. They've been in their own league, head and shoulders above everyone else. No, this isn't an advert for a shampoo product. They're literally just head and shoulders above everybody else. And the thing about this ATK team is because they're so established and they've already figured out their identity and they've already constructed their platform, they're able to start working on the finer details of their game and the really small nuances and difference, which sets them another one level above everybody else who are still trying to construct that platform and get their base going before they can start working on the small things that end up making a big difference. So that's, I think, what really sets this ATK team apart from everybody else, is they're just continuing to add layer and layer on top of their game. Initially it was just their aggression, which everybody was saying if you can shut that down, then you'll be able to get the better of them. But ATK have now proven that they have more layers and they've got more depth to their game than just being aggressive. They're able to win out those 3 versus 5 situations. They've got some great mid-round calling coming through from Mistim as well, and you can just see there's a certain level of freedom in the team which allows the individuals like Fady and Slowy to thrive. There's no egos in the team, so whenever somebody makes a mistake, there's no harsh criticism coming their way, so they feel like they have that freedom to make the plays. So ATK certainly come into this event as heavy favorites and are expected to win this event and take home the first place prize pool. It will be a big upset if that's not the case. Like I said though, Goliath, they will have faith coming into this game that they have what it takes to be a lot more competitive than what their past series have been, based off that Vertigo result alone, where they made that comeback after being down 13-4. They took it back all the way to 15-13 and made ATK work really hard to close out that map. That will give them the faith. So like I said, I do assume that ATK will win that winner bracket final and progress to the grand final and drop Goliath down to the lower bracket final. And I think in the lower bracket, Goliath will beat either DNMK or Sinister5. It would be an upset if they were to go down to either one of those teams. We even saw when Goliath were tested against Royalty this past weekend, and they had their backs against their walls. They didn't get frustrated, they didn't fluster, and they didn't drop the ball. They stuck to their guns, they kept their structure, and they got across the line in the end. So that proved to me that Goliath certainly do still have that depth and that ability to fight through games when things don't start off perfectly well. And I think as long as they've got that tenacity, they will be able to take on either Sinister5 or DNMK and then book themselves a spot in the grand final and have a rematch against ATK, that time in a best of 5. So that is how I expect things to play out over the next couple of days. Like I said, Thursday, 24th of September, 1:30 p.m. will be the first match. 1:30 p.m. is the start time of every single game over the next couple of days. We're going to be working from the studio doing the broadcast myself, and Nick will be casting all the games. And guys, let me know what you think, how these matches are going to be playing out. If you think there's going to be upsets, who do you think will be winning between Sinister5 and DNMK? Do you think that Goliath can maybe get the win over ATK? Will this be the moment where they finally break the streak and get across the line? Or are ATK going to be winning the biggest event of the year? Like I said, a 210,000 Rand prize pool. We're going to have to wait and see, and we'll be finding out. See you next time.